You already know Kowloon Restaurant, established in 1950 and spanning 4 generations, serves a multi-Asian menu. Did you also know that Kowloon Restaurant is New England's premier Asian dining and entertainment complex, serving Cantonese, Szechuan, Thai, and Polynesian cuisine? And did you know that Kowloon Restaurant is also the home of the finest Japanese sushi? If you haven't dined at Kowloon Restaurant lately, then you simply haven't dined at Kowloon. Kowloon Restaurant, Route 1 North in Saugus.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Harley Race.
This is Mick Foley.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
This is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there live.
Wrestling fans, welcome back to another installment of MWF Extra, the Wrestling Insiders. I'm joined by wrestling historian The Jackal. Discuss the WWE Hall of Fame inductions from WrestleMania 30 weekend. Now we're going to dive into the big event itself. Jackal, in my opinion, I thought it was one hell of a production. I thought the 2-hour pregame show was outstanding. I have been big on pre-shows for a long time, similar to how the NFL does them before the big games, and especially to WrestleMania to give it not 1 but 2 hours. I just thought it was fantastic. It was a major league production comparable to anything in sports or entertainment. I'm not saying that because of my involvement in the world of wrestling or I have a lot of friends in WWE. It was just a first-class production from beginning to end. The panel that they had of guests at WrestleMania 30, I believe it was it Booker T, Mick Foley, and Shawn Michaels?
Yes.
How many championships and how many WrestleMania matches did those guys have altogether? I mean, you're talking about the best of the best. I mean, think about everyone in that building that day. You'll probably never, well, obviously you won't have an event again that has Hogan, Rock, Austin, Warrior, Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, Foley, Triple H, Bruno, Dusty Rhodes, Bret Hart. I mean, we could go on and on. I'm sure I'm forgetting folks. I'm not doing that on purpose.
Harley Race was there.
Harley Race was there. That right with Rose Greenleaf. I don't think you'll ever see. Maybe we will next year at WrestleMania, minus the Ultimate Warrior. But I don't think you'll ever see an event that jam-packed with legends of this sport as we saw in that one day. And I don't think people will come to appreciate just how much star power, just how much of a legacy the people involved with that show in some way, shape, or form really had on this business until years to come.
There was, you talk about history. Just that opening segment alone.
Yep.
I mean, who cares how Hogan made a few mistakes? But, I think he was just thrilled to be there.
Well, nothing against our friends with TNA. They have a great product in and of their own right, but when it comes to live events and so on and so forth, but they generally produce television tapings and some of their pay-per-views out of Universal Studios in Florida, which is one of my favorite places to go to. But it's certainly not a 75,000 fans jam-packed into the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans. So that had to have been a great thrill for him to come back and have that many people erupt as he walked out the proverbial curtain that night.
Then when Stone Cold Steve Austin came out, and then, of course, The Rock come out, and just them 3 legends alone, the history. 3 of the biggest icons.
Certainly their first WrestleMania together, and that's, again, a moment we may never see again. No argument about it. They are the 3 biggest stars in the history of professional wrestling. With what they did for the wrestling business, with what they did for WWE, with what they did for pay-per-view, with merchandise, with what they did for arena events. Austin was the big money maker of the 3, but hey, The Rock wasn't far behind, and Hogan had a great career in and of itself.
Hogan would headline probably, would you say, the most? Do you think that would stay, or do you think John Cena's going to eventually beat him on that?
Taking away what the attendance was, just as far as the most main events?
Headlining the most WrestleManias.
Oh, yeah. Cena's not going anywhere soon unless something happens to him health-wise. I don't even know. But again, that's difficult to say. I mean, do you consider the top 4 matches nowadays main events, or just the title match?
Are you asking me that I consider his match at WrestleMania 30 a main event? The answer is no.
No, not at all. Not at all. Who did he work with? Oh, he wrestled The Rock last year. I would consider that maybe. See, again, that's tough to say. If you're picking one match as a main event, I mean, maybe because it was the championship match.
Well,
but
like I said, you know how I've always been. If the title's on the line, it's the main event.
So you gave him the title match last year as the main event.
Oh, definitely.
What about the year before in Miami when he wrestled The Rock in a singles match?
I don't know how it was billed, but if the title match, let's say the old days, when we used to go to the guy, how the program used to be.
Right.
If the title match was the last one, on the top, and then that one was second, and they had it like all blocked into one and called it the double main event, yeah, you can get away with it that way.
All right, well, bottom line is John Cena is going to be around for a long time to come. Great athlete, still in outstanding shape. He's been with WWE now, which is really an astonishing number to think about it. Maybe that shows how fast life flies by, but I mean nonstop since he joined the active roster in 2002. And he's not that old of a guy, so he's still got a lot of time left in the King of Sports, which will be interesting to see. But the Rock, Austin, Hogan segment was, I mean, that's one that I think everyone that watches will probably, there were a lot of moments that night that people will remember for a long, long time to come. Great way to open the show. But even before the WrestleMania 30 itself, in quotations, began, you had the fatal four-way, no, not even a fatal four-way, the four-way elimination match for the WWE Tag Team titles. You had the Usos defending against the Real Americans, defending against the Matadors, defending against, is it Ryback?
Yes.
Okay. And I'll tell you this, one of the better tag team matches I've seen in a long, long, long time. I don't know if it's because most matches you see on television are of the single elimination sort, but they gave the guys time to go out there and do their thing, and I thought it was an excellent matchup with the Usos retaining. And then following the match, you finally saw the split between Cesaro and Jack Swagger.
Well, that split was bound to happen. I'm just glad it did. I think Cesaro is going to be a huge star.
Well, he certainly has the momentum coming out of WrestleMania 30. The second match of the night featured the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. And Cesaro, I guess, was a last-minute entrant. He was announced for it. Then he was removed for the tag team title match, and then he wound up back in it again anyway as the 31st entrant. And he had what you call a WrestleMania moment. He picked up Big Show, didn't slam him in the ring. He slammed him out of the ring for the final elimination to win the first annual Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. I think the match itself is a great idea. It has a little bit more meaning to it than your typical Battle Royal. You've seen at WrestleManias before, where it's just to give everybody in the company a spot on the show. And I think that will be a lasting image. And we talked about before, this Battle Royal doesn't have the stipulations like a Royal Rumble where the winner goes on to get the championship shot at WrestleMania. This can be used at the WWE's discretion is a way to really take someone that's on the cusp of getting hot, someone that's on the verge of becoming a breakout star or a main eventer, and just giving him that big push through the door. And I think Cesaro certainly falls into that category. He was in part of the Elimination Chamber back in February, and he just seems to be getting hotter and hotter by the week, going back to maybe January of this year or so. The past 3 months, he's been white hot in WWE. The Royal Rumble, it began, I think, as a showcase match like that. You saw Jim Duggan win in 1988. He went on to headline with Andre the Giant in a feud in 1988. And 1989, Big John Studd won the Royal Rumble. He had just come back to WWE. That was a way to try and get some sizzle behind him. And we had talked about individually the San Francisco and the Los Angeles Battle Royals. That was back in the days of the territories and the NWA and so on. Once a year, they had a big battle royal where they had all their regular stars from each location. Then they'd bring in stars from other territories, and they'd have a hell of a matchup each year that was usually a sellout crowd.
Oh, yes, especially LaBelle's promotion.
The Los Angeles Battle Royal?
Yes.
What was so special about the Los Angeles Battle Royal?
Granted, they were both, for what they were, Shia was the other one, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's right. In San Francisco. They almost used the same talent, too.
No, they were in the same state. They weren't too
right.
far from each other.
They still almost used the same main event stars. I think Los Angeles their biggest one was a 22-man battle royal. I remember the one Bruno participated in was a 22-man battle royal.
I love hearing the stories about the old-time moments like that. And was there any kind of a prize that went along with that battle royal? Was it maybe a cash pot, which you'd see from time to time? Was there anything special about it other than it being you're the winner of the 1972 Los Angeles Battle Royal?
I'm sure you got a cash prize. I wouldn't remember how much it was, especially way back then. And which obviously you made the cover of the magazines.
I didn't even think about that, and that was certainly a prestigious place to be up until the late 80s or so.
Oh, yeah.
It would be impossible to get the news outside of the magazines, where you're talking about if you lived in New York, were a WWF fan at the time, it'd be difficult to pick up the scoops from all the different territories that were running every day.
Well, especially, we'll take us, for instance, Boston.
Okay.
We would be able to find out what was going on in New York because Madison Square Garden, the main event was usually featured on the cover of the magazine, and then there'd be the little pictures.
Mm-hmm.
For the other thing, you'd have Holly Race was champion at the time, and Nick Bogwinkle, or even Vern Gagne. And then inside there was all, what was going on, and for the big three, and then you had all your small promotions. Don't forget, there was a lot of them then.
Oh, absolutely. Well, Cesaro is this generation's winner of the Los Angeles Battle Royal, a match to pay tribute to one of the biggest stars in the history of this business, Andre the Giant, who left us back in 1993.
Yeah, wow, he's been gone for a long time.
The first inductee into the WWE Hall of Fame, and I still say Andre deserves to be inducted in a Hall of Fame platform instead of just on television.
Well, I agree with you, but his induction was much better than the person who was inducted second.
That would have
you
been,
recall?
That would have been the 94 class in Baltimore, the night before King of the Ring, right?
No.
Who?
The one that was mentioned on Raw when Vince McMahon they were commentating on a match, and then out of the blue, he said Buddy Rogers had been inducted into the Hall of Fame just yesterday.
Buddy Rogers wasn't part of one of the non-televised
no.
Hall of Fames? Really?
No.
I never knew that. I knew he was in it.
I'm like, what? And of course, obviously I recorded everything.
And
after it was over, I rewound it, and it was just as if we're talking now, and just out of the blue. And when Buddy Rogers inducted just yesterday or last week into the WWF Hall of Fame. He's the second inductee. It was sometime in '93. It was late, though. It was towards the end of the year.
I never knew that. I always thought he was part of an induction class. That's why it's good to have a historian like you around, Jackal. 93 doesn't exactly come off the top of my head anymore. Well, I think both of them deserve to be inducted then. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm not saying they shouldn't be in there by any stretch. But
I think they deserve a Hall of Fame.
At least Andre got the big, the Hall of Fame logo come up and all that. But in the music, Buddy Rogers got nothing. It helped Buddy Rogers with his first champion.
I never knew that. Well, there you go. We learned something every time we speak, especially here on Wrestling Insiders. We'll see if Andre the Giant and Buddy Rogers, who unfortunately neither of them are with us anymore, will ever get a chance to have a long induction at a Hall of Fame in the years to come. On with the show at WrestleMania 30, we spoke about it a little earlier. John Cena defeated Bray Wyatt.
Only okay.
I think I discussed this with you before. I don't think the match itself was bad by any stretch of the means, but it just didn't seem to have the sizzle and the hype that you'd come to expect out of a WrestleMania match. I don't know if that's because you see Cena and Wyatt every week on WWE television, sometimes twice, on both Raw and SmackDown. It just seemed like it was missing something. I don't know if they needed to have a match, have a feud before Mania, and have Mania be some kind of a blow-off with a stipulation match, but it didn't feel like one of the top matches at Mania to me.
If they were going to, for them to continue the feud, which I expected them to do anyway, the two goofballs there, Rowan and Harper, should have did something knocking John Cena out and having Bray Wyatt beat him.
Well, like I said, both men went out there and they competed at obviously a very hard pace, but I don't know. It just didn't. As you noted before, it certainly wasn't a main event caliber match by any stretch of the means. Their feud, it wasn't a lot to sink your teeth into. Maybe there's going to be more with it to come. We know that they're going to have the cage match, Extreme Rules, in May. But John Cena, another big WrestleMania victory, and Bray Wyatt, is he someone we're going to see in feature matches at WrestleMania for years to come, Jackal?
I'm not sure.
The Wyatts haven't grown on you so much.
I wouldn't say they haven't grown on me, but possibly them in a six-man next year against three big names.
We'll see. You talk about six-mans. A match that I thought was put together perfectly. The Shields, Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and Seth Rollins defeated Kane and the New Age Outlaws, Road Dogg and Billy Gunn.
Short and sweet, and that's why it was good.
I thought it was put together perfect. I actually thought going into Mania, before anything was announced or started to come to light on television, I thought Roman Reigns defeating the Kane nice and quick would have been a great spot for him on WrestleMania, but they decided to keep the trio together, and I think that's for the best. I could see them being almost like the Avengers out of the comic book series, a strong trio in this instance, kick-ass trio, and that's certainly what they've been of late. Again, you talk about steam coming out of WrestleMania, those three individuals have that and then some as their battle with Evolution begins. But I thought it was kind of fun to see the New Age Outlaws back. I don't know if we've seen the end of them. In Kane, you talk about a battle of the old guard versus the new guard, and obviously the new guard is going off to great success. I think the Shield is here to stay in WWE.
I'm glad they're staying together. I'm sure they're not going to be together forever. But it's good to see them together, and I think you're going to get a good, maybe a couple of months out of this feud.
I would hope more than that. If I had the magic pencil in my hand, I would have that go at least through SummerSlam, with Roman Reigns getting a decisive win over Triple H in Los Angeles, I believe August the 17th. But that's just me. Where would you go with the Shield right now, Jackal?
Right now, they're doing the right thing with them. I could see them. See, I don't know. They're talking all the way to August. Years ago, that wouldn't be hard. Well, now they rush everything.
Don't be time specific. What direction would you take the Shield in general?
Well, if I was doing it?
Yes.
See, I would have kept them as friends, and after I finished off Evolution, if that's the direction they're heading, but I would still like to just, I wouldn't do it as long as you're saying. You're saying the SummerSlam. Let's say I would let them have a couple of months, maybe true Money in the Bank.
Well, I'm big on the long-term feuds. You know that.
I know.
Who knows?
Of course, I lived through most of those days.
You did. You were around before those days.
Yes.
I just, like you said, I think.
And I'm not done yet.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. The voice is back, no matter what the stalker Dylan Cage did to that magical throat of yours a couple of years back. We won't even get into the throat surgeries that you had to live through.
That actually sound better than the last couple of times that I came back for the brief go-rounds.
Yes, I will go that far. I agree with you on that. But I really think it's no secret that most feel that Roman Reigns is going to be the breakout star of the pack, and you never know. That could be wrong, too. I remember...
Well, like I was going to say, I kept the Shield together after the Evolution thing ran its course, but I would keep Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins as the tag team and have Roman Reigns at the top single.
I've said
but still friendly. As a package, they're still known as the Shield.
Right. I've been big on Roman Reigns almost since day one. I wouldn't say he would be the next Undertaker, because you'll never have a next Undertaker. There's only one. But I could see him having a path to the beginning of his career similar to Undertaker. I mean, he's 2-0 at WrestleMania now, but I just see star power written all over him as long as he stays healthy and as long as he keeps his head on right. I think the sky's the limit for what they can do with Roman Reigns. As far as the keeping Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose together, I could see them going that route. I could see them being players as well. They're really having an opportunity right now to work with three marquee names in Triple H, Batista, and Randy Orton on Raw and SmackDown headed into Extreme Rules. I got to say this. I talked about how much I enjoyed the tag team title match at WrestleMania. You're talking about keeping Ambrose and Seth Rollins together as a team if the Shield does not remain exclusively a three-man duo in time to come. But I got to say this, the tag team division is better than it's been in years in WWE right now, in my opinion.
Well, you got tag team champion Usos, who I think are a fantastic team.
Yes, they've come into their own in 2014.
I'll say any tag team combination of the Shield would be good.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with the Wyatt family.
You got the Matadors. You've got Rybacksel. I don't know if the New Age Outlaws are going to be back after the injury to Billy Gunn at WrestleMania or if they're going to be around full time. You have Cody Rhodes and Goldust, Dustin Rhodes, another old friend of ours here in the MWF.
Yep.
Cough, cough. It's been an exciting time for the division. It's kind of been idle at times in recent years, but I think right now it's as good as it's been in a long, long time. We remember the days, Jackal, back when the WWF would come to the Boston Garden, 10 times a year or so. The tag team titles could be in the main event or the co-main event.
Oh, easy.
Who knows if we'll ever see those days again, but it's nice to see the tag team division featured prominently and seeing it as strong as it is right now.
And hell, in my early days of going to Garden in favor every month, the tag team title matches were 2 out of 3 falls. Every
match?
Yes.
Every title match was 2 out of 3 falls?
Every tag team title match, yes.
Really? Yeah. Never knew that? That's why it's good to have a historian like the Jackal around. His good friend, the late Boston bad boy Tony Rumble, used to say, if you wanted to wear a suit, you would have been the man in all the documentaries in the late 90s.
I still don't like wearing a suit.
And he felt very strongly about that you would have been the one in documentaries on A&E about professional wrestling. Well, don't give yourself a pat on the back now. Jesus, Jackal. Come on, take a compliment when you get it, for Christ's sakes. Let's go on to perhaps a match that'll be remembered more than anything at WrestleMania 30, a match that was actually covered on various news outlets. Brock Lesnar defeating The Undertaker to bring his streak to a 21-1 mark. Your thoughts on that matchup at WrestleMania 30?
Absolutely shocking. I was shocked. The crowd was shocked. I gathered the referee was shocked. even now, when I came home the Tuesday and I watched WrestleMania 30 as it happened on the WWE Network, I couldn't believe the crowd. And the faces. I got some people are crying. And I literally witnessed people get up and leave. Wish I had a more comfortable seat.
You need a row.
Oh, great, y'all leaving? I heard stuff from that's bull, I'm out of here. Another one that just wasted money. Probably still crying about it.
I don't think people will ever forget where they were when WrestleMania 30 happened. It took the wind out of the sails of that event, in my opinion, to say the least. A lot of debate has gone on in the world of wrestling about what should have happened, how it should have happened, and so on and so forth. In my own opinion, WrestleMania is the one show a year that gets a lot of casual fans to watch, a lot of casual fans talking about the event. They gave him a matchup with an ending they really didn't want to see. Did they get people talking about it? Sure. Much more so than if Undertaker would have been victorious at WrestleMania 30. It had a great buzz about it. It was all over social media. As I mentioned, it was on some regular television news outlets as well. It was that big of a deal. I don't know. Does it make Brock Lesnar's matches have much more of an impact going forward? Absolutely. And maybe since some of his early matches and his return against John Cena and Triple H the first go-around, maybe he needs a little bit more sizzle to him nowadays. I don't know. I would have liked to have seen someone like Roman Reigns get the rub out of that win. Someone that's going to be around full-time, someone that's going to be on every pay-per-view, someone that's going to be on TV most weeks than not, as opposed to Lesnar, who's probably good for maybe, 15 or so appearances a year?
Well, I don't think you're gonna see him actually wrestle now till SummerSlam.
Really?
Yeah.
Will Brock Lesnar mean that much more to SummerSlam now that he is victorious over Undertaker?
If who I only heard just yesterday who his opponent is going to be, yeah.
Who is his opponent going to be?
Daniel Bryan.
Well, that
of
would
course,
certainly...
just because I heard it doesn't make it fact.
It'll be interesting to see.
I know.
I think that match would have a lot of interest to it. And, to give the devil its due, I think Daniel Bryan versus Brock Lesnar, having Brock Lesnar ending the streak, means more than Daniel Bryan against Brock Lesnar.
And I think despite the size difference, I think you're going to see a fantastic match if it takes place.
I think it's inevitable that it happens at some point. I don't know. I like Brock Lesnar. I know you had your feelings about the way he left, but I think Brock Lesnar is an outstanding athlete. What he's gone on to do outside of wrestling, it speaks a lot about him as an athlete, and to have him in WWE, I think, is a positive thing for the company. But I think he also reached a point where I don't want to say that it lost its value. It certainly didn't. I think the fans were always excited when he came around because they knew something interesting was going to happen when he came around. But I just don't know if the streak was the thing that needed to happen. But again, flip the coin. What would be the right thing to get Brock Lesnar hot coming out of WrestleMania and going forward in his foray in WWE? WWE got people talking with The Undertaker losing to Lesnar. And like I said, it'd be impossible for Lesnar not to be hotter than he is coming out of a victory like that. But what would you have done with this scenario, Jackal?
My personal, not a big fan.
Yes.
Wasn't happy that he took his ball and he left. But when you think about it, I can sit down and I think about it. If I wasn't happy with what I was doing, I'd probably want to leave too.
It really comes down to that. I know there are a lot of people within the industry that didn't like that and so on and so forth, and they're certainly entitled to their opinion. But do you really want to have a guy around for, I think he had just agreed to a 6 or a 7 year contract. Do you really want to have someone around that long that doesn't want to be involved in wrestling anymore?
No, you definitely don't. That turns into a problem.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, he'd gone to the lengths of having his own plane so he could travel as he wanted to. It just, at that point in 2004, it wasn't going to work. Now, it seems to be working. They have him around at least a few times a year for a few big matchups, and going forward, he is the man that ended the streak. How much value does that bring to the table for future pay-per-views? How much value does that bring to getting people to pay $10 a month for the WWE Network?
I actually think it might do decent business for the network. Because you get some of the people that say, I forgot about WrestleMania, and the streak is over. You're not going to get this network. No, you should have got it before WrestleMania, pal. Because it's not like watching it live. I don't care what anyone says. If you can't go to the building, or the stadium, or whatever it is, I'm talking about any pay-per-view event, you have to watch it live.
There's no better way to see WWE than live, indeed. We're coming back to the Northeast with great force in the next couple of months. We'll talk about that before the end of this program. But as WrestleMania moved along, the fans in New Orleans were shocked. Millions of fans around the world could not believe their eyes seeing The Undertaker lose. We hope Undertaker is doing better from the concussion he served at WrestleMania. We went on to the Divas title match. I actually missed the Divas match as I went to get a little snack and to use the facility. I'm not a big women's wrestling fan. That's just my own tastes. What did you think of the Divas matchup for the title, Jackal? I think you saw a little bit of it.
Thank God it was quick. You know what the match reminded me of, but only it wasn't as good?
What?
And I believe it was WrestleMania 15, the Hardcore title battle royal.
Oh, that was 16.
That was 16?
No, the Hardcore title was Holly, Al Snow, and Billy Gunn.
No, I'm talking about the one where they had the 15, 16 guys in the ring at the same time.
Yeah, it was timed.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was 16 in Anaheim.
Oh, okay. That was excellent. That was similar, but, obviously not as good. Although I liked AJ, and I was glad she retained her title for one more day.
Yeah, to me, it's whatever. I think there's too many divas right now. Again, the fans of women's wrestling, I'm sorry. It doesn't do it for me. It's a different generation of women's wrestler, I guess. Or maybe even you're comparing a diva to a women's wrestler. I don't know. I would have rather have seen the tag team title match on the show with the time it was given. But then it was on to the main event. Daniel Bryan finally got revenge for what happened to him at SummerSlam last year in a crazy 8 months or so from August into April as he defeated Randy Orton and Batista to become the WWE World Heavyweight Champion.
Thank God he won that match.
Daniel Bryan, he was an athlete that we've seen here in the Millennium Wrestling Federation. He competed here in January of 2011. At the time, he was the WWE U.S. Champion. Now he's got both belts. The Yes Movement has come to fruition. What happens with Daniel Bryan now that he is the man with not 15 but 30 pounds of gold?
I'm hoping you get a nice, long championship run. Obviously, he is not breaking Bruno Sammartino's record.
No.
And most likely Bob Backlund's neither.
I don't think that'll be the case for anyone with any title ever again.
Right. I don't think so either. Just that I don't want to see him lose it and then win it the following week. That I can't stand that.
Right.
They may not like, we may not like to see, and I think because of television, you can't have those long reigns anymore anyway.
When they're on television...
back then, Bruno and Backlund were barely on television.
You're talking about people that are now seen on TV just about, as long as they're healthy, 52 weeks a year, as opposed to just a couple of times. But I mean, it is what it is. That's how big television has become to WWE and any wrestling promotion nowadays. But he certainly has some fodder to work with coming out of WrestleMania. I think Randy Orton is certainly going to see his time in singles matches with Daniel Bryan as champion. I'm sure the winner of the 2014 Royal Rumble, Batista, will get in there again with Bryan. Triple H, he had 2 great matches with Daniel Bryan, both at WrestleMania and the next night on Monday Night Raw. Even Kane, the masked Kane, is back, who I enjoy more than the unmasked version, and he's coming back with a vengeance this Monday night against Daniel Bryan on Raw. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of that as we head into Extreme Rules. I got to say this, who really impressed me in that matchup, well, the whole match impressed me, but all 3 athletes in the main event impressed me for different reasons. But I think Batista deserves a big-time pat on the back because he's looked a step off at times since he returned in January, but he stepped up to the plate at WrestleMania. He worked his ass off, and he looked tremendous.
Oh, yeah, I've seen a few of his snore fests. But, yeah, no, he looked like he had his work boots on WrestleMania day.
If he didn't give it 110% in that matchup, I'd be shocked. I was really impressed with Batista. He went out there and hustled, and I think he helped make that match as great as it was. And I'll tell you this, as someone that needs a spinal fusion, what Randy Orton did when they did the Batista bomb into an RKO on the table, and Orton just went right through the table that was destroyed onto the television monitor on his back, and his back got cut up. Oh, I felt his pain, literally, as I laid there with my own back pain.
Oh, let me just, because I also noticed the announcers never mentioned it. Even in all the replays, and it was clear what happened to Randy Orton in that move. That looked painful.
I'll tell you this, some of the diehard fans, for some reason, they're not as big on Randy Orton as maybe they used to be, but when it comes to match for match, year by year, Randy Orton's up there, I think, with one of the greats.
Randy Orton, I know for a while there he suffered a lot of injuries. Obviously, he should have suffered one at WrestleMania.
Hey, you know what? I don't care what anyone says. That guy could not have gone through that table landing on the monitor without some kind of a residual effect. Maybe
that back was kind of scarred. I don't know if you noticed that.
I did, but he might not be out of action, but again, that shows what kind of athletes there are in professional wrestling. People can say whatever they want about, it's this, it's that. They know how to fall. To borrow a line from Jim Ross from the Hell in the Cell, you don't learn how to land on a television monitor, hitting your spine at full speed. No way, no way, no way.
So this business will always have its critics.
Without a doubt. But all lost in that, we talked about the main event. What about the first match on the show where Daniel Bryan defeated Triple H?
That was a very good match.
Excellent. Excellent. You've got to give Triple H his due. He may not be a full-time in-ring competitor anymore, but he's one of the more interesting folks we have in WWE, and he's 44 years old, Jackal.
And he suffered an injury during that match.
Yes. He was not at 100% when he competed on Monday Night Raw against Daniel Bryan. But, Bryan had 2 outstanding matchups, first defeating Triple H in a match that also had to have been around the 20-minute mark, to go on to the final match of the night where he went to war with Orton and Batista to walk away with that championship gold.
And just the sight of that crowd going, yes, yes, yes.
How much more exciting would it have been if Quincy Rastani was in the crowd chanting yes with them?
I would have gone home.
Jackal, come on now. Well, no matter how you look at it, folks, we leave WrestleMania with Daniel Bryan as the WWE World Heavyweight Champion. The Shield is hot. The Wyatts are working main events. Cesaro's hot. Brock Lesnar is the man that ended the streak in one of the most infamous moments in wrestling history that I think everyone that watched it will remember. The tag team titles are much more important than they were at one time. Evolution is back together again. Kane's got his mask. It's an interesting time in WWE, especially when you have the legends like Hulk Hogan and the rest coming and going at times you never expect them to.
All in all, where would you put WrestleMania 30? Top 10?
I was going to ask you that. I'd have to think about it. What about you?
At least now we know we can discuss the next one.
There we go. And we can also discuss where we see things in the national landscape headed in 2014. It's a very interesting time in wrestling, and WWE, especially right now with the network. You can get that 1 week free trial again at WWE.com, and it's only $9.99 a month, which entitles you to every live pay-per-view and, 1,500 hours worth of content, if not more, that's available in the archives that are on WWE Network. Check out WWE.com for complete details. Jackal, let's not forget, WWE is headed to the north again with a vengeance. Sunday, May the 4th, it's East Rutherford, New Jersey. Extreme Rules on pay-per-view on the WWE Network. Raw is in Albany on Monday, May the 5th. A little bit closer to home where we are. Friday, June the 20th, they're back in the Providence Civic Center with the WWE live event. 9 days later, WWE Money in the Bank from the TD Boston Garden. The Jackal, your streak of wrestling events at the Garden continues all the way up to Saturday, July the 12th. The WWE will be live at the Mecca of professional wrestling, Madison Square Garden. For our fans in the Northeast, there is no shortage of available options for you to see the WWE live and in high gear.
I love going to these wrestling shows.
It's certainly a different experience than seeing it live in person than it is at home. But, again, fans, get the network. Jackal, when are you going to be back with us again, my friend?
No, soon, I'm sure. Probably next week sometime.
All right. Well, there's a lot to catch up on. We'll see how things are going in WWE. Talk a little bit about what else is going on in the world of wrestling. Until we speak again, Jackal, it's been a pleasure to have you back. Fans, be well.